this session, we'll go through and have an overview of SAP BI system. SAP Network BI Business Intelligence system serves to integrate, transform, and consolidate data from all areas of an enterprise in order to provide the data for analysis, interpretation, and distribution. Now this data would include confidential corporate data that, for example, it would include the personal data from personal data administration division. Decisions are made in all enterprise areas and target-oriented actions are determined on the basis of the analyzed data. Now, for this reason, security when accessing the data and the ability to guarantee integrity is of great importance. Now, let us go and take a look at some of the terminologies that are used in BI. And we have seen some of these things, some of these terminologies when we did the BW sessions. For example, we saw what a PSA was. It's it was a persistent, PSA stands for persistent staging area, which is used as a temporary data storage in the BI for the data that comes from various source systems. Now, info packages defines what data or data source would be requesting from the source system. Now, the info package can request both transactional and master data. So from the source systems, the data is transferred to the BI system through info packages. Now, info area, we saw that it's a collection of info providers like InfoCubes and ODS objects. Now, info provider in BI is a generic term. It's an object. These are the objects into which the data is loaded and which provide, and these info providers provide the information for reporting and analysis, like InfoCubes and ODS objects. They are called info providers. A multi-provider is a type of info provider that combines data from a number of info providers. So meaning the data in a multi-provider could come from an ODS object or an InfoCube. And then the system can make it available for analysis purposes. So basically, the multi-provider does not contain any data, but it comes entirely from the info providers on which it is based. So if you can create a multi-provider with a combination of InfoCubes and ODS objects, but the InfoCubes and ODS objects will actually contain the data, not the multi-provider. We saw what an InfoCube was in BW system. It's an info provider which has a set of relational tables arranged according to a star schema. So these are the primary data targets in BI. So in majority of the places, InfoCubes will hold the customers' data, which come from the source systems like SAP ERP system or any other third-party system. ODS objects is another type of data provider, info provider, which serves as a storage location for consolidated and cleansed transaction data or master data on a document level. So like InfoCube, ODS objects also provide information for analysis purposes. Now we saw info objects. We use info objects in BW for field level security. So these are fundamental building blocks for the BI model. So again, these are used for constructing info providers. Now again, you have info sets like in this another type of info provider. InfoSets determine to which tables or fields in a table, within a table, or query can refer to. So as InfoSets are usually based on table joins or logical databases. Now key figures provide the values that are reported on in a query. So these are numeric characteristics. So key figures can be a quantity, amount, and number of items. So anything which is numeric, which represents the information like a number, is a key figure. So these form the data part of an info provider. So these are quantifiable measure of technical and commercial and personal performance in a company. Characteristics are sorting keys such as company code, product, customer group, fiscal area, period, and region. So these are like info objects. Like you could have a company code info object, which is a characteristics in an InfoCube. So they specify classification options for the data set and are therefore reference objects for the key figures. Now query, we know it's a report which is executed and they displays report to you. So query is a collection of info objects, characteristics, and key figures for analysis of data of an info provider. Workbook, like we said, whenever a query is executed and it has to be reused again, then you can save the query as a workbook if you don't want to execute the query again. So if you want, if the query is executed after an analysis is performed and user formats the output, the user can save it as the result as a workbook. So you could have a workbook is a file with multiple worksheets in it. It's an Excel file, and you can insert one or more queries into a workbook. Now, navigational attribute is a part of characteristic attribute of an info object or a characteristics. So you could convert a characteristic attribute of a characteristic into a navigational attribute. So, and they can also be, so these can be selected in a query in exactly the same way as characteristics of an InfoCube. Now let us see how data flows in BI. Data can be transferred from a source system, which could be a SAP system or a non-SAP system, to the BI system via info packages. Now these define what data defined in data source, that is in the PSAs, should be requested from the source system. Now data can be loaded from PSA into info providers, that is the InfoCubes or ODS objects, by consolidating and applying transformation rules. The data transfer process transfers the data and are used for standard data transfer, for real-time data acquisition, and for accessing data directly. The Open Hub service allows distribution of data from a BI system to non-SAP data marts, analytical applications, and other applications. So in BI, there are two types of info providers, physical and logical. Now, physical data containers, they contain the actual data. InfoCubes, info objects, and data's ODS objects, they contain the physical data. Now, logical data containers, these are logical or virtual structures and do not contain data. These are used to combine, the logical data containers are used to combine data from physical data containers such as InfoSets, remote cubes, multi-providers. See, multi-providers, like we saw, they don't actually contain data. It's a collection of InfoCubes and ODS objects. So a multi-provider is a logical data container. So queries are built on it for analysis of data on a selection of info objects of a particular info provider under a particular info area that we saw when we did the BW sessions. Now, users can get access and authorizations to queries through roles and can output or analyze the data using different reporting tools. So let us understand the basic structure of InfoCube before we proceed further. Before making restrictions on a query built from info providers, so we need to understand what the structure of our info providers. So in our case, let's say in this example, we'll try to understand what an InfoCube is. Because most of the queries are built on InfoCubes. Now, InfoCube is made up of number of info objects, that is characteristics and key figures. Now, all of these info objects, that is characteristics and key figures, are available independent of InfoCubes, meaning let's say there's a characteristic or info object called company code. Now, you can use that characteristics in multiple InfoCubes. So it's not restricted to be used only for one particular InfoCube. Now, characteristics refer to master data with their attributes and text descriptions. Now, like you said, InfoCube consists of several info objects and is structured according to the star schema, which is terminology used in data warehousing technology. This means that there is a large fact table that contains the key figures for the InfoCubes, as well as several smaller dimension tables which surround it. So the characteristics of InfoCubes are stored in these dimensions. Now let us go and see what are the different tools we have for analyzing data that is given to us by SAP. Now in the BW sessions we have already gone through these tools, the Business Explorer suite of tools. Now users can access BI information with several different tools that SAP gives. The Business Explorer suite provides flexible reporting and analysis tools for strategic analysis and decision-making support within a business. Now, as we know, Business Explorer tool is the standard tool delivered with BW and BI system. Now, it includes several components, each designed to perform a specific task to enable forms of analysis. These tools include query, reporting, and analysis function. As an employee with an access authorization, users can evaluate historical or current data at various levels of detail and from different perspectives, not only on the web, but also on the portal and in Microsoft Excel. Now you can use the BEX information broadcasting to distribute business intelligence content by email, either as a pre-calculated documents with historical data or as links with live data. Now you can publish these content on the portal in the knowledge management folders or collaboration rooms. So these are some of the knowledge management and collaboration rooms are some of the new features, functionality that SAP BI provides when compared to the BW system. Now, the SAP's NetWeaver 2004S provides two versions of the tools that comes with BEX Analyzer, a Business Explorer suite. That is, two versions of BEX Query Designer. Then you have two versions of Web Application Designer. Then you have two versions of versions of Broadcaster and two versions of BEX Analyzer. Now the BEX Query Designer, now this is used to analyze the data in the, create the query, to BEX Query Designer is for creating the queries in the BI system. So the data in SAP NetWeaver BI is structured into self-contained business data areas. The business data areas meaning info providers. Now we analyze this data of the BI system by defining queries for info providers in the BEX Query Designer. Now by selecting and combining info objects, again info objects meaning in BI we are talking about characteristics and key figures. By selecting and combining info objects, that is the key figures and characteristics or reusable structures in a query, we determine the way in which you can evaluate the data in the selected info providers. The BEX Web Application Designer is a desktop application used to create web applications. So with the help of this tool, we can generate HTML pages that contain BI specific content such as tables, charts or maps. Web applications are based on web templates that are created and edited in the Web Application Designer. We can save these web templates and access them from the web browser or the portal. Now once they are executed on the web templates are referred to as web applications. So using Web Application Designer, we can create web application and generate them as HTML pages. The Web Analyzer, the BEX Web Analyzer, now this is a standalone convenient web application for data analysis that can be called using a URL or as an iView on the portal side. In the Web Analyzer, we can open a data provider, that is a query or a query view or an info provider, and use ad hoc analysis to create views of BI data or called queries, which can be used as a data providers for other BI applications. Now, using this Web Analyzer, you can also distribute and save the results of your ad hoc analysis as required. The Report Designer, now it's an easy to use design tool that can be used to create formatted reports and that can be optimized for presentation and printing. The Report Designer provides extensive formatting and layout functions that can also be used to create corporate balance sheets, for example, or HR master data sheets to suit your needs. Now, most of these tools, the BEX Analyzer tools, are used by the developers. So, as security administrators, we don't use them often, maybe except for testing the roles that we built. But these are development tools that SAP provides for BI developers. Now, the BEX Analyzer is an analysis, reporting, and design tool of the Business Explorer, which is integrated into Microsoft Excel. So as we saw in BW sessions, when we execute BEX Analyzer, MS Excel starts up. So in the BEX analyzer, we can analyze selected info provider data and use it for planning by navigating in queries that were created using the query designer, BEX query designer. So to do this, we can use the context menu or drop-down functions in BEX analyzer. So we can design the interface for the queries by inserting design items such as drop-down boxes, radio buttons, groups, and push buttons into Excel workbook. In this way, a workbook becomes a complete query application. So you can, the BEX analyzer is used for formatting the data of the query execution. Now, information broadcasting, the BEX information broadcasting allows making objects with business intelligence content available to a wide spectrum of users according to your requirements. Using the BEX broadcaster, you can pre-calculate web templates, queries, query views, reports, and workbooks and publish them to the portal or distribute using them by email or print them. And in addition to the pre-calculated documents that contain historical data, you can also generate online links to queries and web application. So these are some of the tools that come with Business Explorer suite with BI. So this was a brief overview of the tools that we have in BI and the terminologies that are used in the BI system.